Good morning. I think most of us are able-minded enough to know what we're doing most days, know why we do the things that we do. If we go to the gas station, we expect to get gas. We go to the grocery store, we expect to get. We go to the airport, we expect what? What? Obviously, some of us travel a little more than others, and so if you travel enough, you end up having, one or two flight stories. I have one or two. I had a new experience this past, Friday night. I was been up to see my mom and was flying back from Baltimore here to Charlotte, and God bless them, storms happen, right? What are you going to do? It's and just blame it on God. God did that. Well, let's slow down a little bit. I'm not going to blame God, but there are storms, and that means delays, right? Okay, great. So my flight gets delayed until finally the plane gets there about 11:15, and then let all passengers off, and we're waiting to get on, and it's about midnight, and they said, well, one of the pilots has exceeded his flight time, right? You'd think they'd be tracking this at some point somewhere, that they would know this in advance and not be a thunderbolt, pardon the pun, of insight at midnight. But all right, now we're not going to be. We're delaying your flight. I don't know, indefinitely. All right, I'm not going to spend the night at the airport, right? So I get on my phone and I'm thinking of 17 different ways I can try and get back to Charlotte, right? I say, well, maybe I'll drive, but the car rental place is already closed. Okay, so now I got to try and find a hotel. So I call a hotel, and I'm not trying to throw any of these hotels under the bus, but Homewood Suites and Inns at BWI Airport might not be on top of their game. And yes, we have rooms. Yes, we have a shuttle. Great. Send the shuttle, get on the shuttle, get to the hotel. It's now about 1:45. Well, we don't have any rooms anymore. Okay, I haven't cursed yet, so I'm feeling victorious, right? What am I going to do now? Call a few other hotels, and nothing. Everything's full. So I went to the little breakfast area, of Homewood Suites and Inn, BWI Airport, who got me there, but then didn't provide me a room. And their little breakfast area, and they had a sofa. All right, this is where the night's going to be spent, so there I am, laying out on the sofa, and I'm trying to hide because the guy behind the counter was a little irritated that I was a little irritated, so I thought if he comes and sees me, he's going to throw me out and get me. So at least I'm trying to sleep there. Well, you know how that goes. And I find my flight now is scheduled for 6 a.m., so I got to get back to the airport. I hope I'm not boring any of you. It's just, I have to vent. I got to process this, right? So about 4:30, I've slept maybe 30 minutes or something. I get the shuttle back, and by this time, the guy behind the desk, he doesn't even recognize me. Like, he doesn't even, it was a little bizarre. Okay, great. So I get back on, I go back to the airport. Long story short, I get home with about 45 minutes of sleep yesterday morning. I share all of that with you because I feel the need to share, or else I'm going to punch something, right? So, point is that in all the moments of our lives, we have expectations for what we're going to get. We go to the gas station, we expect to get gas. We go to the grocery store, we expect to get groceries. We go to the airport, we expect to fly. We come to Mass, what do we expect? You would think that all of us as Catholics, most of us, many of us, I guess, lifelong Catholics, you would think that we've answered that question over and over again, or else we wouldn't be sitting here. You would think that we have already processed in our being what it is our expectation is when we come here. But I'm suggesting that for many of us, myself included at times, we're not as intentional as we need to be. And because we're not as intentional as we need to be, we go through the motions, or we come here with expectations that are different from the purpose for which we should truly be here. Does that make sense? We come here looking for A when we really should be looking for B. And so I would suggest all of us take some personal account for what are you doing here? What's your hope in this moment? Jesus in our gospel today, he asks that very same question for the people who continue to follow him. Jesus has some stalkers. They keep following him wherever he goes. And he basically calls the questions. He says, what are you looking for? Why have you come here? And they babble on, they ask questions, yada, yada. They're not quite sure exactly what to say. But you know what they keep saying? We want signs, show us something, give us a show. Give us a show. We hear you're something special, let's see it. Dance, go ahead. Do something great. Give us the winning lottery ticket. That's why we're here. And Jesus calls them out. He says, I know why you're here. You're here because you were on the mountain last Sunday. Remember last Sunday? Jesus feeds the 5,000. You came back because you got your fill. That's why you're here? Is that why you're here? You're here to get your fill? Is that your purpose? You're coming for A. Jesus is presenting B. What's B? What's B? We're coming here looking to be filled. Jesus invites us here so that we might be spent. Bait and switch. Jesus invites us here not just to fill us, but to fill us for mission so that we'll go out into the world to spend ourselves in love. And sadly, too often, we come in not as focused, or we're not crazy about what it is that Jesus is offering. We're coming in and it's all about us. He wants us to come in and make it all about him. And if that sounds a little too narcissistic for you, let's refresh ourselves and remember who it is that we're talking about. We're talking about the Almighty. We're talking about the Creator of the universe. We're talking about the Redeemer of all of humanity, of the entire created world. That's who we're talking about. And so if Jesus is making it about him, we should pay attention. Not because Jesus is a narcissist, but rather because Jesus knows what it is we really need. That we don't need just to be filled, we need to be filled so we can be spent. We need to receive so that we can give. And if that's not what you came here for, You may as well lay down on the bench right now, try and get, a little nap, because you've missed the real purpose of the sacrifice of the Mass. Note the words well. The sacrifice of the Mass. Our readings are a wake-up call for each and every one of us who have come in here today, maybe without a clear understanding of why we're here. Our first reading, what happens? We hear in the Exodus event, grumbling, 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 grumbling. This is going to seem stupid. Would you do this for me? Just all of you just say grumble, 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 all at the same time. Just keep saying the word grumble. Go ahead. Come on. Grumble, 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 right. That's what we sound like. That's what they sounded like. We grumble. Like me whining about my bad airport experience. Grumbling. Why? That's what we sound like too often. Pick the experience that you grumbled about yesterday, or dare I say, this morning. Or when we come to Mass expecting A and we get B, and we grumble, and we go out and we tell whoever will listen, gosh, that bishop, he just rambled on and on, or I didn't like the music, or it wasn't cool enough, or I couldn't sit in my favorite seat, or grumble, grumble, grumble. Stop it. Stop it. They grumbled. Enough with the grumbling. Realize that our lives aren't all about our needs being met, but rather about spending ourselves. Jesus uses St. Paul in our second reading from the letter to the Ephesians to say, take off the old person and put on the new person. Enough with your grumbling. Enough with you living that way. For many of us, we understand what we're not supposed to do anymore. We understand we're not supposed to grumble. We just haven't figured out what we're supposed to say. We figured out that we can put aside the old man. We just haven't figured out who the new man is, what God wants us to become, how He wants our lives to be spent. And if all we do is focus on the one, we will miss the fullness of life which Jesus wants to give us and talks about in today's gospel. They keep coming looking for a show. He keeps inviting them for a relationship. Do you see the difference? I'm looking for what I'm going to get. Jesus wants to be with me in relationship. Jesus keeps going back in today's gospel, talking about the relationship between Himself and the Father. That's at the heart of what we should be seeking. Our relationship with Jesus, not just what we're going to get. Because when we're engaged in a deeper relationship with Jesus, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to just hold on to it ourselves? Do we want to just say, oh, it's just me and Jesus here in my own little church silo? Is that the nature of our God? All right, 7 people think no, that's good. Maybe we'll broaden that out to however many people are here soon. No, that's not what we're here for. When we're in relationship with Christ, we can't help but share it. That's what the world needs, is the relationship with Christ, not the rulings of Christ, the relationship with Christ. And when we find ourselves sharing that joy with the world, then we have understood why we come here. We come here to be filled so that we can go forth and be spent, that we can share Jesus with the world. Grumble, grumble, grumble. Take off the old man, not sure who the new man. All of these are points of clarity of purpose. What am I doing here? I know what I'm doing here. I'm here because I've been invited I'm here to be nourished, fed, and challenged, to put beside me that old man, and I know who the new man is. It's Jesus Christ. He wants me in relationship with him so that each and every day I become more like him. And because of that depth of relationship, I can't help but go out those doors and be spent sharing him with others. Are we clear? Are we clear? Crystal. May we share the good news we've come to experience, not as something we've read on an iPad, but an encounter that we've had with the living God. Amen.